When we went through the cut, copy, and paste training, one of the things we talked about was paste special. We reviewed some of the options, but mostly looked at them. We didn't do a lot of the options that were available. So this section is designed to take you through more of those. As we look at this spreadsheet, this is one that you want to open up if you want to follow along, or if you want to try it afterwards, or pause this as we're going through it. It's Paste Special Beginning Workbook. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on B3. I'm going to do copy, so I'm hitting the button. And I'm going to click on D3 for a place to paste. So getting to Paste Special is actually down at the very bottom here, but what we're going to find out is a lot of the options that we're going to see here are already listed on this area right here. But let me just show you this. Paste Special has all of these different options. A lot of these are going to be buttons that are listed there, but then you get a few more. Plus we get Operation. I want to show you what that looks like. Transpose, that's on there, skipping the blanks and pasting links. So we're going to use a lot of these options, but we're going to use the buttons that are available when you do the drop down. So I'm going to hit cancel and drop it down again. So what happens when you have paste? Well, it's whatever's in that cell, it's going to paste it over, or the formula. In this case, there's no formula, it's just text. Okay, formulas, number formatting, we don't have that. Source formatting, it's exactly how it is. No borders, but this one, keep source column width. You'll notice that it is wider than the rest of the page, so if I tell it to do that, it will keep that width for us. So that's one option that's available. I'm going to hit escape. Now that's text. When I click on a number, again it's just a number here, I copy. I'm going to click on D4. So I've selected this, copied, and then I've clicked on D4. I'm going to do the drop down. Same thing. So the reason I'm doing this is because whether it's text or a number, it's just a straight up value. There's really no extra formatting available here unless you apply different types of formatting because it is a number, or because it's a currency, or if it's a date. You know, those are things that will change based on the number formatting and source formatting as you go through this. So we'll show you what these look like. A couple things here. You can paste it as a picture. Let me do that. So it's just a picture of that, and then a linked picture. A linked picture would be tied to other information or to a place that you would want it to go to. So we're going to skip that, and we'll just do paste for now. Okay, so the point was, whether it's text or numbers, doesn't really make a difference other than the way that it automatically formats left and right. Now this particular cell, you see it's text. Not only does it say bold, but it is bold. It's also center aligned to the bottom, and it has a fill to it. So when you click in here and you drop down the fill, you'll see that there's a little red box around the yellow here. That means the color that it's working with. Okay, so when I copy this, click there. I'm going to go to the D5, and I do the drop down. The value is the same. The formula, interesting enough, takes everything away from it and just gives it the raw formatting. Well, there is no formula around this, it's just text. Formula is a number. Keep source formatting. So whenever you want something on your spreadsheet to look exactly the same as what you've created and you want to paste it somewhere else, which will happen quite a bit, because you'll design something and say, you know what, this would look really good down here as well, or we're going to replicate this. So we want to keep the source formatting, and in this case that's the bolding, that is the yellow, you know, everything that's behind that there. We don't have borders, source column width, we already have those things, and those are pretty much the same. This one is just the formatting, so if you have a particular look that you want within that field or that cell, that's one thing that you could do as well. Alright, so let's just go ahead and choose keep source formatting. So do that. I'm going to hit escape. Now this cell is different, and I know we haven't gone through formulas, but this is what they, on a simple level, will look like. Now, the 25 is the result of a formula. Now, how do I know there's a formula there? Well, up here in the top, this is the formula bar, and formulas start with equals, and this is E2 plus F2. Now, what is that? Well, that's referring to a place on your spreadsheet. E2, which would be right here. So it's looking at E2, and then it looks at F2, and it's adding those two together. So here I have equals E2 and F2, and that will equal 25. Now, what's interesting is that when you choose that, it's picking up that formula by default. So I'm going to hit copy and go to D7 and do the paste drop down. So the paste, which is interesting, you see it changed to 45. Well, I'm going to go ahead and click paste. The reason that it does that is when I show you what's in D7, it says equals G2 and H2. What it does is when you copy a formula or a cell that has a formula, it looks at what direction you go, and it moves the formula in that direction unless you do other things to it to keep it in one place. Well, that's a lot of information, but just know that it went from E2 to F2, and then we moved it over a cell. Now it's looking at F2 and G2, but we moved it over one more cell, so now it's looking at G2 and H2, which is equal to 45. So while I copied the cell, I didn't paste the value. I pasted what was actually in there, which was a formula. So that's a little bit different. I'm going to hit that and delete it. Copy this again, and then I'm going to choose D7 and just show you the difference. Paste picks it up. If I pick up the formula, it's the same thing. Number formatting, source formatting, that's all the same. Width, transpose is not going to work on this. I'll show you why in a minute. But here, under paste values, I'm saying just the value, meaning the result of anything in that field. So if you say paste the value of a form or of a cell that has a formula, it's just going to give you the result of that formula. Okay, the value and number formatting, value and source formatting. There's no change there because there was no other formatting available. Okay, so no formatting was in that cell technically, linking pictures and so forth. Okay, so what's interesting is if you just do paste, it picks up the formula. If you do formula, it just picks up the formula. But if you do values, it's the result of that formula. So I'm going to do that, and that's all I want to show. Okay. All right. One of the neatest features is something called Transpose. And if you take a look at that section, we have a 20 and a 22 in green and an 18 and a 12 in red. What Transpose allows you to do is grab a section of your spreadsheet, very small or very large, doesn't matter, and it's looking at sections like a column of information like this and a row of information. So a typical set of spreadsheet numbers. Now there can be numbers in here as well, but just to make a simple point about how Transpose works, I'm going to select those cells. I'm going to do copy, and then I'm just going to click here, and I'm going to drop this down, and this item right here is called Transpose. Now notice what it's doing. It's taking what was in the column, the 18 and the 12 that's in the red column there, and putting it across the top. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it to leave it there. And this is just not wide enough to show Transpose. So it's taking these two numbers and transposing them up here, and then it's taking these two numbers and transposing them here. So you may work through a lot of data and then you realize, you know what, this would work better if all this information was on the side and this information was across the top. There's a quick way to do that now. So that is a very neat option. It allows you to quickly transpose information on your spreadsheet. A great tool. Now, another tool that is not in the drop-down and immediately available is actually within Paste Special, and it's called an operation. So I'm going to choose these two cells. I'm going to copy them. And then I'm going to choose these two cells. And I want to do something with these numbers and impact these numbers down here. So I've selected these two, copied, which is B10 and 11. And once I copied it, then I went and selected B13 and 14. So what I want to do is I want to perform an operation here, and you'll see what I mean in just a second. I know that sounds odd. I'm going to do the drop down for paste, do paste special. And here is operation. So what I'm going to say is that I want to take these two numbers and I want to add to those two numbers, or subtract from them, multiply them, or divide them by what I've selected. So I'm going to leave it on add and click OK. And both of those numbers should now be 30. Okay. Now what's interesting is it took the color that it was originally and picked up the formatting and the coloring. I mean, everything that was here has now been applied to that. So be aware of that. But when we did the add, it took the 18, like let me undo this. It did the 18 plus the 12, and it did the 12 plus the 18. And both results of that operation, the adding, is 30. So I'm going to redo it, and that's how they do that. So some very interesting things that you can do with Paste Special. I hope you'll discover these as you start to work more and more with your workbooks, because they can save you a lot of time trying to recreate things or go ahead and quickly change and manage things on your spreadsheet.